Hey, what's up? What is VC here, coming at you with another video about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. You can find me here on the VC here on YouTube. You can find me on Rumble. So subscribe or follow me, whichever or both platforms. And let's just get right to it. All right, about anything and everything, and common sense applies. All right. So we're just gonna go make the rounds, see what's going on, and all these different things that are happening. So I want to begin with, this is what happens when you support terrorism right here, all right? So let's take a look at this here. All right, you want to support terrorism with Free Gaza and Hamas and all this stuff, then you're going to get what you ask for, right? So Hamas execute protesters in Gaza as punishment for speaking out. All right, so yeah. Free Gaza, right? Support the protest, the movement.
Batteries dead.
Right? And what happens is you
recall that
you support terrorism.
The whole purpose of our Sky News Anti-Semitism Summit was to bring together the brightest minds in the nation across all fields to come up with tangible solutions that would actually address anti-Semitism. There were 15 recommendations at the end of the day, and they included putting anti-Semitism education in the national curriculum, putting Holocaust education back in the national school curriculum, more public awareness and advertising campaigns.
I'm surprised that's even taken out. That's a part of history.
Into anti-Semitism at universities.
It's weird because if you're talking about different points in history of, for example, you could say, talk about the slavery during the 1800s. 1900s, there was the indentured servants, which is kind of like slavery, but at least they're getting paid in that sense. You could talk about internment camps. Those are stuff that was happening in the mid 1950s-ish, or 40s, 50s. So Holocaust happened around that time too. So why would you not talk about this part of history?
There were many others, including changes to the Migration Act, others that affected national security, not allowing anti-Semites into the country. Now, Alex Rifchin wrote to both Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese asking them if they'd endorse these uncontroversial, quite sensible and rational outcomes from the summit. Peter Dutton responded saying he would endorse every single one that fell under the federal government remit. But today, Alex Rifchin received a letter from the Prime Minister, a 3-page letter where he failed to endorse a single outcome. And let's bring you now to discuss Executive Council of Australian Juries co-CEO
Alex Rifchin.
Alex, what was your response when you received this letter?
This discrimination towards Jewish people.
I was thoroughly disappointed, Shari. As you said, it was a very long and comprehensive response from the Prime Minister in which he very passionately and I believe very sincerely condemned anti-Semitism as an evil and as something un-Australian, and listed the government's measures to date in combating anti-Semitism. But as you point out, when we hosted this summit, it was with a very clear intention and purpose, and it was to move the conversation beyond platitudes and easy, self-evident condemnations, and to actually talk about the solutions, to come to grips with what's happening in our streets and in our country, to talk about things like the need for judicial inquiry into campus anti-Semitism, to talk about the Migration Act, to talk about the ideological rigidity.
So this is based in Australia, that they're kind of addressing things in Australia. I'm going to fast forward this to the headline here. Let's go, I'm going to pull it back to here.
Back to that mother who was on Q&A, asked Albanese a question about anti-Semitism on Q&A a few weeks ago. And he said in response, well, we've done everything the Jewish community has asked of us. Well, here you had the Jewish community sending a letter saying these are 15 things that would actually make a difference. And he just won't even consider them. And you mentioned
so there's like anti-Semitism in Australia.
That letter was purely
I just don't get it.
So disappointing, Alex. But
so we're gonna move forward
we won't stop. Neither you or I. We will not stop campaigning on this. Absolutely. Now, I just want to talk about the brave Palestinian protesters who've come out against Hamas. Now, we've seen them protest on the streets. Have a quick look.
So you support terrorism, but yet when they want to uprise against their own terrorist leaders, terrorism, Hamas decides to crack it down in deadly fashion. And so all this could have been squashed a long time ago if you let Israel handle their business, bottom line. But no, you know, too much protesting, too much free Gaza, and, you know, too much of all this stuff supporting Hamas. Look what happens, right? Now they just decide, all right, you know what, we're going to take out our own people.
Now, in response, Hamas has executed 6 Palestinians. There have also been public beatings. And among those murdered was a 22-year-old, Odai al-Rubai. He was beaten and tortured, only to be later dumped on his family's doorstep. Alex,
Damn.
This is grotesque.
No question about it, Shari. And what's happening on the streets of Gaza, it poses a real dilemma for the pro-Palestinian movement, which you and I know is really a viciously anti-Israel and pro-Hamas movement for the most part. Because what's happening in Gaza shows that Hamas is overwhelmingly responsible for the plight of the Palestinian people, which goes against the propaganda of the Palestinian movement that Israel is the root of all evil in the Middle East and all suffering for the Palestinians and indeed the world. They often speak about how the removal of Israel will be a great step forward for world peace. The other problem posed by these protests is that it's very clear that the sort of freedoms the Palestinians are now enjoying to be able to march and voice their opinions and express themselves as they wish, the sort of freedoms that Israelis cherish and enjoy every single day, are being granted to them by virtue of Israeli military power. It is the near destruction of Hamas that has allowed these freedoms, which the leaders of the Palestinian people would never entrust to their own people. But Adam Bant and those who reflexively condemn all of this, they are so wedded to that ideological position of Israel being uniformly and unequivocally and unavoidably evil that they can't look at the facts on the ground and they can't.
So you see the difference when Palestinians side with Israel, how much freedom there is, right? And then when you side with Palestine / Hamas, look what happens. Right? You don't fall in line, they're going to kill you. So it's pretty easy to, you know, pick a side here. And like I said, let Israel steamroll through it. But, you know, you got all these progressives, liberals, and all that. Oh, no, you're going to hurt the poor Palestinians. Free Gaza, free Gaza. Also bullshit. So that's what happens here. You side with terrorism, and terrorism will bite back. All right, so that's what happened there. Speaking of terrorism, all right, we're going to cross over into what's going on over here.
There's a driver from a small town in California.
We all know that
walked
there's
away.
been domestic terrorism going on, all right, and across the United States when it comes to domestic terrorism against Teslas and Tesla buildings and cars and all that. And they're torching them, they're destroying them, they're causing hazardous materials to burn, emit into the air, which is more toxic and worse than a typical car fire or house fire. But yet, all these idiots are burning, torching, destroying property that coming from, I mean, we all know Republicans wouldn't do that sort of thing. And it's pretty easy to see that, and evidently see that throughout history, Democrats have been far more protesting in terms of use of violence, destruction, for whatever it is. And then, of course, they like to take advantage of violence and destruction by looting and doing all this extra stuff that's not necessary, but they're supposedly, in history, peaceful protesters, right? And they always hide under the guise of that, but then, the action speaks louder than the words, and their actions don't really show that they're peaceful at all.
With $80,000 after their accident.
So now the state GOP
Here's the
headquarters
part. They didn't win the
targeted
lottery.
in an arson
didn't
attack. So yeah, Republicans would torch their own building, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to say, that they would do that to their own building?
Sunday, the Republican Party of New Mexico headquarters was the subject of what the party chair is calling a deliberate act of arson. The building's front entrance was completely destroyed and graffiti reading ICE equal KKK was sprayed spray painted on the side.
This is like a stencil.
Joining us now is the chairwoman of the Republican Party of New Mexico, Amy Barela.
Yeah, so we all know that's progressives, liberals that would do that sort of thing, right? They're the only ones calling Trump or ICE or anything like that. You know, Hitler, KKK, all that stuff.
Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, Amy, I want to play this soundbite first from one of the members of Congress and get your reaction. Let's play it.
How are we going to respond? Because people keep asking about me, what do we do? What are you doing? What more can you do? And we have a three-pronged project. Legislate, litigate, agitate. And you guys are part of the agitate part. So don't feel like we are hopeless or helpless. When we express our outrage, and it is universal, they are forced to put it back.
So
the Congresswoman later said this in an post after the attack. Political violence is unacceptable, including the arson attack on New Mexico's GOP headquarters. The perpetrators must be held accountable. Every American should be able to freely and safely participate in our democracy. At my town hall yesterday, I spoke about love and action, about the importance of showing respect and listening. This is what we need right now. Now, obviously, that was a softer term in tone
like that to me.
Before, after the fact of this bombing. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I believe that she changed her statement as soon as I came out to the media. And with
it's like what Bernie Sanders says. Every time someone flip-flops or backs down on a particular issue, they're just being pragmatic, They're just being pragmatic, right? They're trying to soften their stance. They're trying to do this and all that. One, to cover their ass, right? CIA, they always want to cover their ass when shit happens, but never take responsibility, right?
Was calling her out on those statements. I mean, you're holding a town hall to discuss about the love of the community, and you use the words agitate, I think, is contradictory.
Yeah, so
that's what they are.
Don't you think that the temperature just needs to be lowered? It looks like it's coming from one side right now. I think spirited debate is great, but it's clear that they're targeting Tesla, Republicans' headquarters.
Yeah,
when is it going to end?
Yeah, I mean, really, people.
It ends with the left calling out, and just instead of calling out for violence and the destruction of the United States.
What they got to do is someone that represents Democrats and far left just needs to put their people in place, right? Like, really, there's no one really stepping up to say anything. They're just kind of tolerating everything, letting things happen, but no one's really speaking out. And someone will eventually step up and speak out, say, hey, enough is enough, guys. All right? Let's just rally behind, me or so-and-so, and we will take, our place back. But all this stuff that's happening, we just got to stop, right? If someone calls out their own people, I think that would be a good way to go.
States and across New Mexico, how about we come to the table and work together and fix the crime problems in New Mexico instead?
Yeah, so Madam Chairwoman, can you...
It's surprising that New Mexico is a border state that you would think would be kind of like Texas, right? Because they're dealing with, immigration problems and all that. And they're not. they're a blue state, which is, to me, it's kind of surprising. I mean, I can understand because they're, they've always, allowed entry of, Mexican, from Mexico and all that. But to have all these other people that come from other countries come through, it's like, don't you want to draw the line? But I guess they don't.
Give us some details of exactly what happened that day.
So while it's still under investigation, we do know that there was some sort of device to start a fire placed in front of the doorway about or around 1 a.m. and that the ignition was about 5 a.m.
Yeah. Was anyone anticipated or supposed to be in the building at the time of this attack?
Probably not.
No, thankfully not. And that's been one of my worries, for the last few months is with all this going on across the United States, I'm really worried about our safety of our staff.
I think eventually it's going to cross over to that, right? Right now, it's destruction and destroying of things in general, right? Cars, buildings. And eventually it's going to get physically violent, right? Someone's going to get hurt physically. Someone's going to die. And maybe that's what needs to happen in order to prove a point about how destructive Democrats are, you know, that they're doing all this stuff. And when you think about it, what are they protesting for, right? Because of common sense? I mean, when you really think about it, what are they protesting for? Because the government's making cuts to budget? They're torching their own Green New Deal sort of ways when it's supposed to be environmentally friendly, the best thing ever, right? Get cars off the road, everything's going electric, but yet you're destroying the very thing that you guys wanted. Let's see, you're protesting for illegals to come in the country illegally on our behalf, so that way they could reap and benefit rewards of living in our country on us, right? They get food, house, not necessarily a job, maybe under the table jobs. You know, I mean, where's it all in? Health insurance in some, you know, a couple states. Like, where's it all in? Right? So I don't know. I mean, what are they protesting about, right? Free Gaza, right? That's another issue too, right? Oh, Israel is so blah blah blah. Free Gaza, right? I mean, what are they protesting about?
Do you think it's okay for you to reopen your facility, or are you guys taking extra security precautions going forward?
You can't open that right now. It's a mess.
We will probably be in remodeling for 2 to 3 months. So we are going to temporarily relocate in a different community that hopefully has a lower crime rate that we can feel safer in. And we will address the security system as we move it back into our old headquarters.
Have you talked to the FBI or anybody about this, since this was clearly a political attack?
I'm surprised there's no like surveillance
This has
cameras.
been deemed a hate crime, and I know that they're going to be back today to do more investigations and collect more cameras from the neighboring businesses. Yes, we are in close contact with ATF and the FBI. And the Attorney General did reach out to me yesterday as well.
Wow. We're praying for you folks right there. Hopefully we can get the temperature.
Yeah, actually, you know, all these people that's caught violent and destruction, all this stuff they're doing, every one of these people, whether it's the buildings, the cars, all that stuff, every one of them, throw the book at them. You gotta really show and teach a lesson of this stuff, because if you don't make examples out of all these people, right, throwing the book, this is federal, you know, whether it's federal hate crime, federal violence, destruction, whatever it is, right? It's not going to go nowhere, right? If you're going to be soft, like the Biden administration has been on crime and all that, and people walk, oh, here's a ticket and go. No, it's not going to teach any lessons, and all this stuff's going to continue. But if you start throwing the book at them and really charging them for their efforts, I mean, yeah, this is stuff that they could be charged for. If you're living in a reality of law and order, then I think this stuff will eventually die down. So something to think about there, right? See what else we got going on here. I like this here. Biden's $3 billion electric postal truck initiative gets shut down, courtesy of Car Coach Reports. Let's take a look at her, since we're talking about the Green New Deal, you know, Teslas. You know what's funny about it is that they've always talked about how the post office over time has become more of a fiscal issue, right? They've been having these sort of fiscal issues year after year after year, and to put $3 billion into an electric postal truck program when money could be better utilized for their services of the U.S. Post Office, in terms of their services, maybe figure out a way to, they probably got to doge their budget as well to streamline it. And once they figure that out and get their budget in place, just the post office that is, I think they'll be able to get things back in order and be what they've always been, right? Being a good, you know, mail service. But to put this type of money into this initiative, it's just a waste of money. Plus, you got to do all these extra things to accommodate these electric vehicles. It's just money wasted, right? And Green New Deal has proven that it's just more of a money grab than anything. All right, it's just a grift, and so it's great that they shut this thing down.
Start a savings habit.
How to start shaving a rabbit.
If you want a simpler way to build a habit, a BMO savings.
Here's another waste of government money, and this time it's a $3 billion contract for 55,000 electric postal trucks. That's enough to replace about a quarter of the U.S. Postal Service fleet. And big shock, only 93 vehicles have been delivered. But this seems to be par for the course for any government electric vehicle initiative, and we've covered this on the channel. Now, two prominent lawmakers are introducing the, quote, Return to Sender Act. I love this. To rescind... Sorry, it's too funny. Love the name. To rescind $3 billion allocated under the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act, a 2022 law sold as an inflation fix, but packed with green energy funding for the U.S. Postal Service, known as USPS, by the way.
All this green energy
the
stuff's
electric
been a
vehicle
joke.
initiative, well, this move comes amid concerns over production.
Like in California, all new home constructions are required to have solar panels on the roofs. Required. You don't even have a choice. So, yeah, this Green New Deal is a joke.
Delays and escalating costs associated with the program. Well, that's no shocker. I'll tell you more, but first I want to remind you to like this video and subscribe to this channel to keep up with what's going on in the automotive world. Senator Joni Ernst, a Republican of Iowa, and Representative Michael Cloud, a Republican of Texas, are seeking to reclaim the $3 billion that have been earmarked or established for the electric vehicle fleet for the United States Postal Service under former President Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. The two Republican lawmakers are part of the congressional...
So it's pork spending that they added to the, Inflation Reduction Act. They pork-barreled Green New Deal spending into it and passes through to do all this Green New Deal bullshit, right? And so, yeah. Good thing they caught this and didn't really see the whole thing through. Good thing there's delays and all that other stuff. And only a small amount have left the building in terms of being sent.
Doge Caucus. Doge stands for Delivering Outstanding Government Efficiency, not the Bitcoin, a new group hunting government waste and overseeing the Department of Government Efficiency. They have introduced legislation to claw back the Biden-era funding. Kamala Harris has even admitted that the Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA, that she often touted on the 2024 campaign trail is really just a backdoor enactment of the Green New Deal, which pushes for a massive shift to zero-emission transportation. Harris, who cast the tie-breaking Senate vote for the IRA, now frames it as a step toward those goals. But it's not working the way that they had planned. The proposed legislation, known as the Return to Sender Act, comes in response to a reported delay in delivery for the U.S. Postal Service electric vehicles.
Good.
As of last November, only 93 out of the planned 60,000 vehicles had been delivered by defense contractor Oshkosh. The contractor had an agreement with the Postal Service to produce an initial 50,000 electric delivery trucks for a 3-year period that started in 2022, meaning they're way behind schedule with less than 0.2% delivered by late 2024. Oshkosh, a Wisconsin-based defense giant known for military vehicles, won the contract in 2021, but it's been struggling to switch gears to the mass production of electric mail trucks. Senator Joni Ernst, chair of the Doge Caucus, criticized the program, stating that Biden's EV postal fleet is lost in the mail. The order needs to be... This is too funny. Okay. The order needs to be canceled with unspent money returned to sender, which is the taxpayers. I am defunding this billion-dollar boondoggle to stamp out waste in Washington.
Come on, people.
Tax dollars should always be treated with first-class priority. Love the puns, by the way. Representative Michael Cloud of Texas echoed these sentiments, highlighting that the Inflation Reduction Act had funneled billions into the U.S. Postal Service EV project that has delivered delays, defective trucks, and rising costs. Reports suggest that the price per truck has jumped from $55,000 to over $70,000. And he advocates for reclaiming the $3 billion in taxpayer money allocated to this project, because it would cost twice as much by the time these vehicles are done. Now, Oshkosh is believed to be struggling with the production of the electric postal service vehicles, with insiders claiming that the contractor is uncertain it can build the trucks effectively under the terms of the former Biden government's contract. Furthermore, rising costs have compounded the project's delays, which means they probably should just send the money back and avoid this hassle.
However, yeah, they should just focus on the military vehicles, not worry about this bullshit. And I think they're going to try to find a way to hold on to that money. They're going to send that money back.
The Washington Post reported that Oshkosh's CEO expressed satisfaction with the project status, stating that the company is really happy where we are. However, internal sources revealed challenges, with one individual commenting, "We don't know how to build a damn truck," which I find funny when the CEO is saying a completely different story.
It's always like
the delay and production issues have prompted Ernst and
the higher-ups are never on the line to see what's really happening. They're only up at the top, and they don't actually go down to the line. And that goes for any occupation, right? When they're at the top, they don't actually see the line, right, where all the work is happening to see what's truly happening, right? They probably hear from, mid-managers and all that stuff in every organization. They try to spin things positive because they want to keep things going and flowing and not have any sort of disruptions or any sort of issues occur. So, of course, they're just going to be, quote-unquote, pragmatic again and then be like, oh, yeah, everything's going well, boss. Right, but the CEO needs to go out down the line to really see reality, and that goes for all occupations.
Cloud to seek the reappropriation of funds, approximately 30% of the total appropriation designed to tackle the inflation under President Biden's initiative. I'd like to see all the money come back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, all of it.
But the order needs to be canceled, with the unspent money returning to sender, the taxpayers. I am defunding this billion-dollar boondoggle, she said. It's a waste of government money.
It is.
Senator Ernst.
So think about it now, all right? Is this a bad idea to claw this money back? Come on, people. All right? You very people that are torching Teslas, that wanted the Green New Deal, but you're torching Teslas, are all of a sudden are not wanting the Green New Deal, right? This doesn't make any sense anyways. So, of course, you got to give this money back.
Said in a statement announcing the legislation measure aimed at clawing this back as soon as possible. A U.S. Postal Service spokesperson defended the initiative, stating that the fleet modernization is central to their, quote, Delivering for America plan, a 2021.
They got money problems in itself. That they got other things to worry about than a bullshit electric fleet.
One strategy to revamp the struggling U.S. Postal Service with new technology, a greener fleet, and meet federal emission cuts by 2030, even though they've been losing money every year and can't seem to get in front of it. And they just want to keep charging us more to ship packages and letters.
Yeah.
They reiterate that the commitment to environmental sustainable vehicles, aligning with financial and operational considerations, and affirming that deliveries of new vehicles remain on the schedule.
Fuck that.
I think they better take another look at their books and maybe sit down with an accountant. But as the Return to Sender Act progresses, it will serve as a focal point for discussions on fiscal responsibility and the role of oversight in government funding initiatives. These are your tax dollars. This fight isn't just about mail trucks. It's a test case for whether Biden-era green spending can survive a new wave of Republican oversight, especially with the 2026 midterms looming. Where are your tax dollars? Let's stop wasting our money. If you
All right, good stuff. Yeah, claw that shit back. Let's see what else we got going on. Maybe take a look at one more thing here. Let's see, should I look at one more thing? I'm trying to see what else here. Tesla takedown, yeah. Right, when you think about it, why? You know what I'm saying? Interesting stuff here. So LA County is going to increase their sales tax. All right. I mean, they got budget problems anyway, so of course they're going to increase their sales tax. But it says here Antelope Valley. I think that's like North Valley, LA. 11.25% sales tax. Man, how can you live there? 11% sales tax. That is crazy. That's insane. Let me look at this.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story.
Crazy.
A big heads up for Los Angeles County shoppers. The sales tax is going up tomorrow. Now, this is because voters approved Measure A in the November election that will give more funding to the homeless crisis.
In some areas,
you people are a bunch of dummies.
The county will face.
Man, when will you guys learn? All right, you people voted for this, then you guys get what you're paying for. All right, you guys wanted this, you guys voted for this to help fund the homeless. We all know the homeless programs have been a mess in LA, overall in California, and you dummies voted to approve this. You guys got what you're paying for. Then you guys, just take it. All right, just continue to take it because you guys are a bunch of idiots.
Even bigger increases in rates. NBC4's Brittany Hope is live in Palmdale to show us the impact. You've done a really great job, Brittany, this morning of breaking this all down where it's easy to understand.
Yeah, AJ, I mean, it's a lot of numbers, right? So trying to kind of simplify it all down because it has real impacts. And Palmdale, Lancaster, you're going to see a lot of that. So we're live just outside the Antelope Valley Mall. Let's break down some of those numbers. So take a look at your screen right now. So right now, today, the sales tax in LA County is 9.5%, but that's going up to 9.75% tomorrow. And again, that's because voters approved Measure A in November. Cities, though, Palmdale and Lancaster currently have a 10.25% rate. Well, tomorrow that's going up a whole percent to 11.25. That is the highest rate in the entire county and the region.
That is crazy. A 1% increase.
Here's some more perspective. The city of Long Beach is 10.5%. Riverside and Orange counties are low at 7.75%, with Ventura County only 7.25%. So why such a steep gap for Palmdale and Lancaster? Well, voters in both cities made their voices heard as well in the November election, and they approved a sales tax going up to keep more dollars to grow and improve local programs, public safety, and infrastructure. The city of Lancaster did send me a statement about this, saying in part, our Shop, Drive, Earn economic incentive program is designed to help offset the impact on both shoppers and businesses, especially for larger purchases. This initiative is part of our broader commitment to stimulate economic activity and provide real benefits to our residents. But we do know, of course, not everyone voted for this and not everyone is excited about it. Palmdale City Council member Andrea Alarcon says that she was the only elected official in the Antelope Valley in her city to actually speak out against this. So here's what she said. She wrote a whole op-ed about this issue. She said, in part, this will disincentivize local buying, hurt local and small businesses, and deter tourism.
If I was living there, I'd be driving into LA.
Cannot afford an additional tax on day-to-day expenses. Seniors and those on fixed incomes can't afford it. I cannot afford it. But nonetheless, between the county going up and Palmdale and Lancaster city taxes going up, going to feel a lot of impact here. Just for some perspective to some other LA County cities, the sales tax here is going to be higher than in places like Malibu and Manhattan Beach and Inglewood. Reporting.
Yeah, Orange County. I mean, there's a lot of high-class luxury income money in Orange County, and it's only 7.75% sales tax.
Live in Palmdale, Brittany Hope for Today in LA.
Man. You guys got it all backwards, man. You guys are morons. So you guys got it coming to you. You guys like it. You guys are going to get it. So, and then you're going to cry later. Watch. You guys are going to cry later because you guys are clowns. So anyhow, that's the latest on everything here. You got clownsmanship with sales tax increase in North LA County there. Furthering of domestic terrorism. You got free Gaza. Hamas decides, hey, you know what? You talk shit about us. You don't have no free speech, so we're going to kill you, right? So they kill 6 protesters that are speaking against their terrorist organization in Gaza. All right, I mean, who wouldn't see that coming? And so, what else is there? You got the headquarters. We talked about that. I mean, yeah, it's just some crazy stuff going on. But that's the latest and everything. Comment down below. Subscribe with the bell icon on YouTube or follow me on Rumble. I double post. And other than that, thank you. I'll see you next one.